Well, you did it. You've made it to the last week of Advanced Learning 2, so congratulations. This week, again, another really brief lecture just to kind of bring things full circle and wrap the class up. We spent some time earlier in the semester and throughout the semester talking about applications of the science for students or individuals with autism spectrum disorders and pushed it a little further as well. I asked this question now, what is ABA known for? And throughout this class, we've kind of discussed the different applications, so it seems a little silly. But whenever I talk about whenever I talk about ABA to groups of people who may not be that familiar, this is the question I ask. Years and years ago, when I first started practicing, I'd say ABA, and people really didn't know what I was talking about. I would get things like, are you analyzing my behavior? And, oh, are you a psychologist? But more and more, ABA has been in, a part of our culture. And what that has come is that many people believe that ABA is work with autism, right? And I've done a number of presentations called Neither A in ABA stands for autism. However, there is a reason why this misconception occurs. ABA has been utilized very successfully to enhance the lives of many individuals with autism. And it's important that we do disseminate that work. We're supported by many, many different organizations. And I think embracing our work with individuals with autism spectrum disorders and making sure that we're providing the best quality practice and clinical practices with individuals with autism and continuing to disseminate that work is really, really important. I want you to read this quote and look at how the science is incorporated to the support that we get from this particular organization and many, many different organizations. Our work with control and single subject designs and really utilizing the science of behavior for applied work with individuals with autism is what differentiates us from other areas and other approaches to enhancing their lives. This is why we should be utilizing approaches to working with individuals with ASD based on the science of behavior. ABA works because of the science. If we forget the science, then we are not practicing ABA. And furthermore, if we're forgetting the science, as practitioners, we are also disseminating poor evidence of work in the behavioral sciences. So that we want to make sure that that's what we're considering as we do this work, and that we're actually practicing ABA when we're working with individuals with autism. In the same light, we're going to make sure that it's really clear that ABA does not mean work with students or individuals with autism. There have been successful applications in many different areas, some listed here, of behavior analytic treatments or conceptualizations or assessments in all of these different areas. That's what you're going to be reading about this week, is just a very, very small fraction of the work that's been done in areas outside of work with students with autism. I hope I picked from areas that are of interest to you, but if you ever want articles on other areas, please don't hesitate to ask. I had to choose very few out of hundreds of articles. But if you think about it, this and our work in with autism is a pretty vast area, very, very broad. So what we need to do is make sure that we're thinking about, well, what is ABA really if it's being worked or being utilized in all of these different areas? How can you determine if an article you're reading or a procedure that you're implementing or looking to implement is actually ABA? My hope is that at this point, all of you can answer this question. How do you determine whether something is technically applied behavior analysis or not? The answer is to figure out or identify if it meets the definition of applied behavior analysis. This is the definition by Cooper, Heron, Hewitt. However, we also know that within this definition is embedded the 7 dimensions of applied behavior analysis. It is absolutely essential that all board-certified behavior analysts can not only list the 7 dimensions of behavior, describe each of the what each dimension is, but describe why the 7 dimensions are important. If I'm reading an article about gambling, I'm going to be looking for whether what is being done is applied, if it's behavioral, if it's analytic, if it's written technologically, if the analysis is conceptually systematic, if the intervention or the research was effective, and if there was generality. If not, it is not applied behavior analysis. This should be something that you do within your career and lives as future BCBAs. So this list is not something just to memorize. It's something to understand and utilize. That brings us to our lecture check-in. Our last lecture check-in of the year or the semester is really asking why it's important. And it could be because Cooper, Heron, Hewitt say so, because it's on the BACB task list, because Northeastern says so, or because collectively they make up the science of ABA. And I hope everybody answered D. That was kind of a give me. But as you can see, we've kind of moved full circle where we were originally considering all of the domains of the behavioral sciences. And we're back to that. So as you read your articles this week and look at disseminating research or other aspects of the science of behavior and ABA specifically that you're considering the 7 dimensions of applied behavior analysis, are the articles that I provided all applied and behavioral and analytic, technological, conceptually systematic, effective, and have generality. I may have missed one. Sorry for the list. But that's what you want to be considering. I'll tell you right now, they may not be, right? There may be an experimental article in there. But that's how you should be considering things, as well as we talked about last week, breaking everything down into the paradigms to make sure that you're utilizing the science of behavior to interpret your research. That being said, I hope you've enjoyed the class, and if you have any questions, as always, to reach out. It's been a great semester, and hopefully I look forward to hopefully hearing from many of you in the future.